Missions is a big deal because it works. Missions is a big deal because it's about people's lives. Missions is a big deal because God said it was a big deal. God had one son and he made him a missionary. God so loved the world that he gave. He gave his only son, that whoever would believe in him would not perish, but have everlasting life. Today we stop, and I've invited one of my good friends to be here with us today. He's a representative on the West Coast for Convoy of Hope. And I just wanted him to come and share some stories about what God is doing through your giving to Convoy of Hope. This church partners month after month after month after month through your general missions gifts to this church. And the man who's going to speak, his name is Pastor Eddie Rentz. Eddie and I have been friends for a long, long time. We have traveled the world together. We have preached together. We've been great friends. Eddie has held some very high offices nationally in the Assemblies of God. He is known, he is respected across the world, but that's not why he's here today. He's here today because I know his heart about missions, and because he's one of my good friends, and I trust him in our pulpit, and I trust him sharing with you about this topic of missions. Would you welcome my friend, Pastor Eddie Rentz?
Good morning. Man, it is a privilege to be here at Bethel Church, and I just want you to know that I am honored to be part of what is going on here, and most importantly, I just want to say, Pastor Brett and Valerie have been close friends for a long time, and you got to know, God must love you a lot to give you Pastor Brett and Valerie as your pastors, because they're the real deal. We've been in tough situations all over, and I've seen their lives, and they are amazing, amazing people. And I tell you, the heart they have for missions, the heart they have for people, Bethel Church, God just must think the world of you to send them to you. And I just want to tell you, I'm grateful to be here as well, because Bethel's been part of my life for many years. I went to Bethany. Back then it was Bible college. I hate to admit that, but it was Bible college back in the 80s, and used to attend this church, and it had a profound impact and effect on the shaping of my life. And to be able to be here is an honor and a privilege. And I want to just say thank you. Your reputation is known around the world. That is the fact. Bethel Church has a massive heart for lost people and has always had that. And I think it just notches up every single year because of your generous gifts and because of your heart. Hal Donaldson, who is the president and founder of Convoy of Hope, asked me personally to thank you, to tell you thank you for giving, to help us do what we do, to be partners together so that we can touch a world that does not know Christ. In 1994, Convoy of Hope began, and since that time, we have served and shared the gospel with 53 million people. How many know that's a big deal? 53 million. Since that time, we've expanded and we've been feeding children around the world. In fact, I just came from Springfield, Missouri, and they said that we are now feeding 127,000 children their only meal of the day, every single day. Every day. We are doing it in Haiti. We're doing it in El Salvador. In the Philippines, we're doing 35,000. Haiti, 57,000. In Kenya, Nicaragua, Dominican Republic, Honduras. We've given out over 10,000 filtration systems. We have been involved in 893 outreaches and have responded to almost 200 disasters. Last year, we responded to 13 disasters because of you, so that we could go out there and touch lives. Convoy, get this, we're now recognized by the government as one of the top 5 responders to any natural disaster. What does that mean? That means when they call the Red Cross, they call Convoy of Hope. How many know that's a miracle today, that they're calling us to come and respond to what's going on? We have responded to Joplin, to Haiti, to Japan, Katrina. We have distributed over 300 million products, all because of you and your generosity, because of your heart for lost people. And I cannot tell you how many partnerships God is opening up right now. Janelle Hale, who is the head of the National Breast Cancer Foundation. She's an incredible born-again Christian. She was a survivor of breast cancer, and she said to herself that no lady should experience what I had to go through at that time. And so she began the National Breast Cancer Foundation. They approached Convoy of Hope and said, you're the largest feeding program we know of in this country, and we want to partner with you. And Convoy's on a 50-state tour, and they gave us $2 million to help do the tour, and they're showing up at every city when they're bringing their mammogram unit, as well as people to help women on the front end discover whether or not they may have breast cancer. How many know that is a massive, massive thing? How many have ever heard of the Jonas Brothers? They're just kind of a small, group. They're kind of out now, but you know what? For us, they're in. Last year, they gave us $1.5 million from their concerts to feed and help people around the world. Coca-Cola gives us over $8 million in products every single year. Herbalife gives us $4 million in vitamins and herbal products. Feed My Children. They give us $4 million of products, manna packs, that we are able to purchase as well as they donate. Right now, you know what's amazing? The NFL, Major League Baseball, and the NBA are getting involved in Convoy of Hope. In fact, do you know that the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Seattle Seahawks, and Baltimore Ravens have all done a Convoy of Hope outreach in their community, and they paid for it themselves? How many know that's a miracle? Now, if we could just get the 49ers to do it. No, really, I think we ought to get the Raiders to do it. God knows they need help with their image and their team. Dear Father in heaven, I think blessing might come if they take on Convoy. Man, something's got to happen to them. I feel bad for you if you're a Raiders fan today. I love you, I'm praying for you. It's going to be a long season. God's doing incredible things. You know why? Because He's stirring the hearts of people to see bigger than their own lives. It's amazing what is happening. And I got to tell you again, it's all because of churches like Bethel Church that has a huge heart for missions. This is known as a missions church. It's known as a church that cares about missionaries, and it sure cares about Convoy. We would not be doing what we are doing today if it wasn't for you. I don't know about you, but do you have a favorite scripture verse? I have favorite verses. One of mine, Pastor Brett mentioned, John 3:16. For God so loved, He gave. How many know that's a pretty amazing verse? He gave. Another one of my favorite verses is Matthew chapter 9, verse 36. When Jesus saw the crowds, He felt compassion upon them. He was moved with compassion. I love that verse because you see Jesus not just see, but He reacts and responds and does something. But here's one I really love, Acts chapter 20, verse 35. Paul says these words talking about Jesus. Remember the words of the Lord Jesus Christ that He said, it is more blessed to give than to receive. It is more blessed to give. How many found that to be true in your own life? The Bible doesn't tell us, listen, the Bible doesn't tell us that there's not joy in getting. Oh, I like to get, don't you? I love it when it's my birthday time. I love it at Christmas time. And my most fun at Christmas is when I get to watch my kids open their presents and to see the joy that's on their face. In fact, my family's here right now. My wife, Judy, my oldest, Jordan, then Jessica and Jonathan. Stand up real quick so they can see you right here. We're just honored to have you guys. They don't get to travel with me much, so it's great to have them with me. The Bible says there's more joy in giving than receiving. How many know that's opposite of the world's philosophy? Man, just read the bumper stickers. You like to read bumper stickers? I love to read bumper stickers on cars. In fact, let me share a couple with you. This one's for Pastor Brett. It fits him perfectly today. Age is a high price to pay for maturity. We're both growing up, so I thought he'd like that one. How about this one? All men are idiots, and I married their king. I told Judy if she doesn't scrape it off the back of our car, then we're going to counseling. How about this one? Don't follow me, I'm lost. I like this one. Mothers with teenagers know why animals eat their young. That is awesome. How about this one? Never put off till tomorrow what you can avoid altogether. How about this one? When all else fails, lower your standards. Here's one you all know. Whoever dies with the most toys wins. You know, that may be the world's philosophy, but that's not what the Bible teaches, does it? The Bible doesn't teach anything like it. In fact, Winston Churchill said it best. He said, we make a living by what we get, but we make a life by what we give. I may work to make a living to pay the bills and all that are my responsibilities, but I make a life by how I give and what I invest my life in. That's what makes a difference. How many know money doesn't determine our value in life? It's not what we possess that determines our value. It's rather what we give that determines our value. And today, I'm so grateful for Bethel Church because you are givers. I don't have to convince you of anything. I just come to celebrate and tell you what God's doing. But I want to say to you, today is one of the best days of the year. You know why? It's Faith Promise Sunday. It is an opportunity to see the world through the eyes of God and to do something in a significant way. When I give a faith promise, I'm saying that money's not my source. I'm saying that God is my source. When I use the idol of the world and I give it to make a difference in the world, I am declaring that God is my God and I will not be bound by fear with the recession that's going on or what the government is doing. How many know it doesn't matter what the donkey or the elephant is doing in politics? It matters that we serve the Lamb of God that was slain from the foundation of the world. Your boss is not your source. Your job is not your source. Your business is not your source. God is your source. He takes care of his children. Recently, we did a citywide outreach in Cleveland, Ohio. Bill and Kathy, their two teenagers, fell on hard times. In fact, Bill lost his job. And he, like many others, began to search and look for a job, but there was none to be found. It didn't matter. He was either overqualified or nobody needed his services. And as a result, they dwindled their finances in their savings account, and eventually they couldn't pay their mortgage. Eventually, their home went into foreclosure and they lost it because they could not get any help. Bill happened to be down at the local mini market, and there he saw a sign that said, Convoy of Hope is coming to the fairgrounds, and they're giving away free groceries. He got excited because they were desperate. They needed help. In fact, they got so excited that they decided they were going to sleep in their car at the entrance of where the event was going to take place. So that night, Bill, Kathy, and their two teenagers slept in the car so they could be first in line. They were first, and when they walked in, if you've never been to an event, it's a massive event with all different kinds of opportunities for you to find help. Bill and Kathy walked in, and people began to love on them because when you come to a Convoy of Hope event, we don't treat you second class, we treat you as honored guests. We celebrate the fact that you're there and that we can serve you and help you. So they walked in and someone loved on them and then asked them, are you here for in need of a job? And they said, well, actually, we could use a job. And so they said, there's a job fair tent that's not far from you. They both went over there, sat down in front of some people that were offering counsel and help with resumes and opportunities, and they began to talk and interact with Kathy, and they realized she had some special skills. So they helped her punch up her resume, and during that time, they typed it out, printed it, and said, go over there because businesses are hiring. They're looking for people. So her and Bill, they both went over to that tent and they sat down, and Kathy began to talk to them, and she got an interview. And in fact, she got a job. She was so excited, she could hardly contain herself because they'd been searching and looking. So here they were, they come to Convoy, she gets a job. So they go, what other tents are here? And so they went down, they found out there was a manicure and a pedicure tent. And so her and her daughter decided to get a mani and a pedi. They sat in there and enjoyed being pampered and taken care of. And right next to it was a haircut tent. And so from there they went in and all the family received a free haircut. They went from there and they said there's a clothes tent. And so each of them received 3 brand new outfits that they could take home. They were so excited, they could hardly contain. In fact, Bill was so overwhelmed, he could hardly keep the tears from flowing. Then they heard there was a shoe tent. And when you walk in the shoe tent, this is unlike any Payless you've ever gone to. Because the moment you walk in, there's someone sitting there with a bucket of water. They take off your shoes and your socks. They wash your feet while they're talking to you and finding about your life. Then they get the size of your shoe. Someone runs off, gets the size, comes back with a brand new pair of socks and brand new shoes. And you don't get to put them on, they put them on for you. And there they are sitting there as they're being served and taken care of. They're overwhelmed. Finally, they go, we just need to go get groceries. And so they headed to the grocery tent, but you have to walk through the prayer tent to get there. And they were stopped at the prayer tent and they said, have you had a good day today? And they said, it's the greatest day we've had in our life. They said, really? Is there something we can pray with you about? And Bill looked at them and said, no, because today God answered every single prayer we had. Today. So they said, well, do you know about Jesus? They said, not really, not much. They didn't go to church. They weren't involved in anything. And there, the prayer counselor shared Jesus Christ. And all 4 of them came to Jesus Christ on that day. That day. Listen to me. That happened because of you. Do you know that took place because Bethel Church said, we care enough? How many know that's the power of compassion? That's the power of looking out there and seeing there are hurting and broken people. Let me just say this to you. Life can get tough and you can go through hard times, but as a Christ follower, God promised if you go through the fire, you won't be burned. If you go through the flood, you will not drown. Why? He is your provider. He is your provision. He's your Jehovah Jireh, and there's nothing you can face in life that God will not be with you and help you through the crisis. Nothing. How many know God is bigger than the recession? Let me just say this to you. If you take care of God's business, God will take care of your business. Let me say it again. If you take care of God's business, He will take care of your business. In Haiti, we're feeding 57,000 children their only meal of the day every single day. In fact, it's one of our largest feeding programs. Our goal is in the next 2 to 3 years to feed 100,000 children every single day. That's our goal. We feed in 250 schools and in over 40 orphanages at this point in time. And one of the schools we came up to has 700 students, but it only allows for about 320 to attend. So they divide it up in sessions. So we arrived this day to see the feeding program and what was going on with Convoy and this school. And while we were standing there, 2 boys with backpacks took running across the dirt area, headed towards the fence. And when we turned to look at them, because they were so excited, we saw a woman standing there, and we assumed had to be her mom. Her face looked a little stern, and we were wondering, is there something wrong? And the boys ran up to her. They talked a moment. As soon as she saw that she had our attention, she started heading our way. And when she got to us, we asked her, is everything okay? Are you all right? And she said this, Would you please go back and tell the churches and the people who are giving so that we can eat thank you on our behalf? You see, I have 4 children, and this weekend, because of Convoy of Hope, I don't have to decide which kid doesn't get to eat. I don't know about you, but the moment I heard that, I thought, dear God in heaven, how could I ever imagine and pick a child that cannot even have a meal? And then she said this. Her face began to soften, tears began to well up. She said, my boys and my entire family are Christians because of Convoy of Hope today. And we want you to know how much we appreciate the fact that you're giving and you're feeding and helping us out. My friend, that's because of you. Oh, you might be sitting there and thinking, hey, my dollars don't really make a difference. Listen, just because you don't get on a plane and go over there doesn't mean that your faith dollars are not making a difference. Oh, if the church could just see how important their faith dollars are, they would begin to evaluate things different and begin to say to the enemy, I will not get sucked into this culture because I'm living for another kingdom, and my kingdom's not right here. I'm living for a kingdom whose maker and whose savior is Jesus Christ. And I'm living for that kingdom. Oh, what we could do to make damage against the kingdom of darkness. How many know Jesus was right? It is more blessed to give than to receive. I don't know about you, but I like to pick the people I hang around with. And there's a group of people I don't like to hang around with. That's stingy people. You ever know a stingy person? You ever met somebody? Don't elbow your spouse right now, please. I don't want a fight starting in here right now. Just keep your arms tucked in, okay? Now, I'm not talking about being prudent and watching over your money. I'm talking about stingy. You know what I mean? That spirit of Scrooge on them. They just are always complaining, and they never have any money to give, and they always just measure it based upon their self. I don't like stingy people. You know why? Because they drain you. I mean, they just drain the life out of you, and then they make everybody else miserable. They're like a virus that infects everything. They remind me of Chippy the parakeet. You ever heard of Chippy? Chippy, the parakeet, never saw it coming. One second he was peacefully perched in his cage singing, and the next he was sucked in, washed up, and blown over. His problem began when his owner decided that she was going to clean his cage with a vacuum cleaner. She stuck the nozzle in to try to suck the seeds up at the bottom of the cage, and then the phone rang. And she grabbed the phone to answer it, and all of a sudden she heard, shoo, in the vacuum cleaner went Chippy. She frantically, her heart dropped to her stomach. She frantically ran over, opened it up, and there was Chippy covered in black dust. He was alive, but he was a mess. She grabbed him, rushed him over to the tub, and did what any loving owner would do. She turned on the faucet full blast with cold water and power washed the bird clean. So now, to dry him off, she grabbed the hairdryer and blasted the wet little shivering bird with hot air. Chippy doesn't sing anymore. You ever met people like that? That life has been hard, it's been tough. It sucked the hope out of their life. It sucked the wind out of their life. And now they complain about everything. They're upset about everything. They're stingy. Let me just say this to you. Listen to me. If God can get it through you, He'll give it to you. God is looking for people that will not be a log jam in the funnel of their life. If He can get it through you, He'll give it to you. He wants to bless people. You need to learn the joy of giving. In Nicaragua, outside of Managua, there's a little city called Bethel. It is a small little village. You couldn't even call it a city. It's marked with dirty roads, with homes that are put together with cinder block and a little bit of mortar and any pieces of tin or that they can scrounge up to try to keep them from the elements. It's a very, very poor community. When we drove up, the streets were they were dirty and deep with potholes. And we drove up to a little school that was nestled next to a church. Pastor Enrique was the pastor. He had been there for many years, loved this community, loved this little village, and had been serving this village. When we got there, Pastor Enrique was so excited that Convoy of Hope and these gringos would come and see what is going on. And they hugged our neck and we loved on one another. It was as though we felt a connection instantly. And as we began to talk, he excitedly wanted to show us around, and so he wanted to show us the school. There were about 300 that attended that little school in the village. And he began to walk us through the classrooms and where the principal was at and what was going on there. And then we went by a little room that made us pause. It was a green room. The room was green all around, including it had green tile, but what caught our attention was in the center of the room was a metal table. And we asked Pastor Enrique, what's this room for? And he said, oh, this is a special room. I said, really? He said, 10 years ago, God spoke to us and said one day some people would come and they would bring food and they would begin to help this village turn around by bringing food and clean water. It was going to change what was happening. They had been preparing for year after year after year. Little did they know that the next Monday, Convoy of Hope had decided that we were going to begin to feed this little village. So when he told us that, we were all excited. And here are all these women and children. There's about 200 of women and children there just kind of milling around. And we told Pastor Enrique, good news. We have an answer for you. We're going to begin to send food and bring product over here and begin to take your school and your village on as a Convoy of Hope project. You should have seen the place. It went up like a nuclear bomb. The women started crying. They started shouting. The kids started jumping up and down. It looked like a Holy Ghost outpouring. I mean, they just got all excited. And we were like, wow. It went on for at least 10 minutes. Just excited about what was taking place. And then as we began to notice, we noticed there were no men. It was only children and little kids. So we asked the pastor, where are the men in the village? We haven't seen any men. The pastor hung his head and said, well, the reason there are no men in this village is because not far from here is a sugarcane factory. And the men work at the sugarcane factory. And what they do is they work in there to strip the sugarcane. They're involved in the processing of the sugarcane. The only problem is that they spray the sugarcane with a pesticide. And in order to strip the sugarcane, they use steam. It softens it up so that they can strip it. But they don't wear masks to protect them from the steam of pesticide that is coming up. And so they're inhaling this pesticide. And 300 of the men in that community had died a slow, terrible death because of the pesticide that was being sprayed on the sugar cane. Community was devastated, as you can imagine. Pastor Enrique looked at us and he said, I'm so tired of doing funerals. I'm so tired of seeing men being laid to rest and their families grieving as a result of what's going on there. Today, if you go to that little village, that village gets food and water every day. And that school has grown from 300 to over 550 people. Listen, it's all because of you. It's all because you said, we believe in what Convoy of Hope is doing. We believe in the mission of what's going on. We believe in what's taking place. And all I could think of was James, where he said, this is the will of God. This is true religion, that we look after the orphans and the widows that are in distress. That's what Convoy is doing. When you choose to say yes to missions, when you choose to say, Pastor Brett, we know that the church's vision is that we want to give away at least $1 million a year. You see, he's doing missions, you know why? Because that's who he is. It's in his DNA. I know. I've gone to other places in the world. I've been with him. And this man, he breathes and sleeps missions for those that are hurting and lost that are outside of there. And you are recipients of that. It's like an infection that's getting on you. And I just got to say, you don't ever want to get an inoculation from that. You want to jump up and say, God, we can and we will make a difference in the world, because Bethel Church is some of the most generous people that there are anywhere we go. Too many churches put an emphasis on programs. They major in projects and programs, and boards have to evaluate their decisions and curtail their missions giving. But when you turn off the small faucet, God turns off the big faucet. Let me just say to you, Bethel Church is here not to just survive or exist. You're here to reach the lost, advance the kingdom, to reach people that have never heard the gospel of Jesus Christ. You're called to feed the hungry and give hope to those that don't have any hope. You're here to raise up missionaries and raise up national missionaries to go after those without Christ Jesus. And if you'll obey God, He'll take care of your children, your youth, your seniors, your music, all the programs will flourish, because you've said to God, you're our source and we trust in you. Forgive me for getting so excited sometimes. My wife says sometimes you yell too much. I can't help it. Not because I'm upset, but because I'm excited about what God's doing. Let me finish with this. In Haiti, where we have our largest feeding program, recently we were in an orphanage, and the orphanage is run by a lady by the name of Julie. Julie is incredible. In fact, when she walks onto the grounds of the orphanage, the kids flock her like she is the most special person. They come up to her, they kiss her, they hug her, they tell her how special she is. And as I began to talk to Julie, I found out her story. Julie is one of the ones in Haiti that came for money. There are not a lot of them there. In fact, in Haiti, 85% of the people that live in Haiti, 85%, do not work. They don't even have a job. Those that do work, they make about $4 a day. That's it. There are over 1 million orphans that are on the streets in Haiti, a country that is about 9.6 million people, over 1 million orphans. Julie, when she was growing up, she used to have a driver, which is super unique in Haiti. She had a driver, and she would see all these kids that were on the street that were in need, and she would ask her parents about these kids, and they would say they're orphan kids. And Julie was so moved by it that she would take her lunch. She would tell her driver to pull over, and she'd give her lunch away. Then she started taking clothes from her closet. Made her parents so angry, because here she is sneaking out clothes to take them to kids that are hurting. But God did a work in this young girl's heart, and she said, when I grow up, I'm going to run an orphanage. I'm going to take care of kids. Julie has not only a college degree, but she has her master's. Every person that asked her out, because she's a beautiful Haitian woman, every person that asked her out, she would always say to them, I'm going to start an orphanage. And if you can't handle that and you don't want any part of that, then you need to hit the road, because that's where I'm headed. I want a guy that's going to follow the dream that God has put in my heart. So if you're not into that, well, obviously a lot of guys just left, but one guy stuck. He was so excited about it, and they built an orphanage. In that orphanage are the most amazing kids. In fact, one day, Julie, going down the road, picked up a girl that's now in her teens. She gave her body away every day just for food. In order to eat, she would let people ravage her, and she gave herself away. They picked her up, this angry, bitter girl. They began to love on this girl, and they found out she has gifts in her life. Jesus radically changed her life. She is saved, forgiven, and she has the call of leadership on her life, and she's going to start an orphanage one day. I mean, God is doing amazing things. They picked up a little boy whose entire family, other than his dad, was killed in the earthquake that happened January of 2010. This little boy's about 4 years old. His dad one day was headed down the street towards work, some kids stopped him with a gun, wanted to rob him, and ended up shooting and killing his only living relative, his dad. Julie found this little boy on the street, and today he's eating, being loved on, and being taught about Jesus Christ. I want you to know something. Sometimes you don't get to see what's going on, but let me just tell you, your dollars are making a difference. Your generosity is making a difference. And Bethel, I've come here not to make you feel bad or guilty, because you don't need any. You just need to celebrate, because what God is doing amazing things through your life. And I want to close with a video. It's at that little orphanage where Julie's running it. If you watch it, you'll see a girl, a woman in a blue dress that will come out of the left corner of the screen. And you'll see that's Julie, and then the kids.
Thank you for your generosity to missions. Thanks for caring about children in Haiti who live in a street. Thanks for caring. You see, I agree with Hetty. This is a day of celebration. This isn't a day where heavy-handed techniques need to be used or where begging needs to occur, because we are doing it and we are doing it well. And I thank you for being the kind of church that is such a delight to pastor when it comes to world missions, that when a man like Hal Donaldson calls and says, Haiti has been destroyed, will you help Convoy? We can just say yes. Hal, do what Convoy does, and we'll stand with you. Hal called me about 2 months after the earthquake took place in Haiti, and he said, we're opening a warehouse, and we have groceries, and we have distribution centers. He said, Pastor, would you like to come and see what we're doing? And I said, I do. We're spending a lot of money, Hal. I'd really like to see it for myself. So I went and I walked through the warehouse that was filled with food. And I went to the distribution centers and I walked through the downtown areas where things were being handed out and food was being given out. And then I started to visit orphanages. And it was about 120 degrees. And I walked down to this orphanage and all these little children, these little boys, started grabbing onto me like I was a new jungle gym apparatus. I was sweaty and I was hot, and every limb had multiple children hanging on it. But I couldn't help notice that their eyes looked different than the eyes of the children I'd been driving by in the street all day long. And the difference was hope. The difference was Christ. The difference is what Convoy of Hope had brought to that orphanage because of the generous contributions of this church. Thank you for being a missions church. Thank you for caring about Haiti. Thanks for caring about our neighborhood kids, but thanks for caring about kids that you're not going to see and you're not going to know. In your bulletin, I put a flyer. It's called a faith promise card. I don't put a lot of things in the bulletin as far as inserts anymore. We've really gone away from that. If I put something in the bulletin, you know that I think it's really important. And to me, this is really important. I want to give you an opportunity to be a part of something that is making a difference. This says that with God's help, I'm going to give some money to missions. I'll never call you and check up on you about this. I'll never ask why your pledge wasn't fulfilled. This is between you and God, and God deserves to be able to stretch your faith a little bit in this area. I'm going to ask you to take this card and to fill out the big half of it, tear off the small half, and keep it for yourself. This half stays here. And this is one of the tools I use to be able to determine missionaries that we can say yes to or missionaries that we need to say no to. These numbers on these sheets make a big deal to me. Ushers are going to have bags on the way out. You can fill this out and put it right down in there. I think everybody should fill out a faith promise. Let me talk frankly for a minute. This church has been great in missions for decades. And there is a generation in this church that has shouldered the load on missions giving for decades. And it is time for my generation and the younger generations to start shouldering the load of missions in this church. It's time for some torches to be passed down to another generation. Friends, we can't keep asking those who have always done to be the ones that always do. If we're going to be a strong missions church into the future, that torch has to get passed. I'm going to ask you to please fill out a missions card. Leave it with an usher. Keep that little part. You know why? Because 2 months from now, you're going to need a reminder. 3 months from now, you're going to need a reminder about general missions here at Bethel Church. And as you give to general missions, I promise you, those dollars are going to go to people like Convoy of Hope. And we're going to do a good job with it. One other announcement I want to give to you. Starting Thursday, we're going to be doing something new here at Bethel Church. We live in a neighborhood that's hungry. When we go out in the streets and talk to people, we always are encountering people who are hungry. When I go out on prayer walks, I take food vouchers in my pocket because people are hungry. And starting this Thursday, we're going to start distributing food out of this church to this neighborhood. It'll be a couple of hours once a month on a Thursday. Pastor Art's overseeing the program. People are being screened. They've already been screened. And on Thursday morning, 300 of our neighbors are going to show up on this property to receive groceries from this church. We're going to be partnering with a food center here in San Jose, and we are going to become far more active in feeding not only Haiti's children, but the children of Cadillac Drive and Impala and all around this area too. If you're interested in helping distribute groceries here at the church, there's a table in the lobby, and you can sign up and you can get some details and come and help us. But this Thursday, it all starts. Would you just remember us in prayer? It's the first time we've done it. 300 people coming through, and boy, we want it to be an awesome experience, crowned by the presence of God as they're receiving groceries. We want to make an impact in multiple ways on our neighborhood. What a great church, huh? Caring for a neighborhood and caring for a world. And I'm proud of you guys. I am really proud of this church and the way we handle missions.